Okay, the Detroit Lions have traded TJ Hockenson. We know, but I want to talk about more. I want to talk about deeper and what it means for the franchise, what it means for the future, and some of the reactions that I noticed. I also want to talk in this video a little bit about Aubrey Pleasant, but Audrey, whoops, but about Coach Pleasant. Let's do that. You can't mess up a first name when you call him Coach. Former Coach Pleasant. But, anyways, I want to talk about what the TJ Hockenson trade means for the Lions and a very clear direction that they're going in. So I'm going to start by giving you some facts. They trade TJ Hockenson. We already know this. They get a second and third rounder. They give up Hawk and they give up 2 fourths, possibly a fourth and a fifth. And now we're all rooting for the Vikings to win a playoff game, I guess. But at the same time, we're not, because we want an earlier second round pick. But we got more capital. And the fact is, fourth round picks hit sometimes, but when they hit, they kind of hit. Second round picks should be immediate starters. Third round picks hit more often than not. So we actually got some good capital in this trade that I'm excited about. But here's what I found to be interesting. There were many interviews after the Hockenson trade, and there was one person that stuck out that was noticeably agitated. And that person was none other than starting quarterback Jared Goff. The question is why? And there are some obvious answers. Well, he just lost one of his best targets, so he's upset. Of course he is. He probably had a good connection with him, so he trusted him. He had been with him for the last 2 years. I mean, there's many reasons to say. But here's the thing, and many people are even making the argument, well, this is a primary target. Well, if it's a primary target, why didn't he throw to him more? I think Hockenson was never great in Detroit. And in these 2 years, Goff, everybody says it's Goff's fault that Hockenson isn't producing. And Goff's all angry when he leaves. Well, if you wanted him to stick around, then why didn't you target him more? Like, why didn't you make him a bigger part of the offense if he's such a good receiver? But let's go deeper than that. Jared Goff, we talked about, is a guy that needs everything to be insulated in order for him to have success. He needs a good offensive line. He needs good weapons. He needs a good running game. And if all those things are going well, he typically plays his best football. He also plays better football when there's no pressure on him from a backup quarterback, or when things start to go south and maybe they're starting to question, is this the quarterback of the future? He has proven in LA that he does not do well when there's not a lot of good things around him. So I think, and that's a lot of quarterbacks that could be said for, but that's not a recipe for success in the NFL. And I think what the Detroit Lions tried to do this year was insulate him with a lot of talent. They went out, they got DJ Chark. They already had Hockenson. They made sure they had a very good offensive line. They obviously have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Swift. They had Williams. They had weapons for days. They even went out and drafted another tight end. They drafted a wide receiver that hasn't been able to play yet, but they tried to get weapons. Here's the problem. Offensive linemen, wide receivers, running backs all get hurt. And it was crazy for me. You saw Goff and what happened when all of a sudden there's no St. Brown. All of a sudden there's no Chark and there's no Swift, and it just went to crap. And so we see that again, except for against Seattle, which has a horrible defense. Let's just say that for starters, but it has not been good. And so you can say against the Dolphins, it was good. It was good for a half. But then it just completely shut down again. And so when you don't have that perfect stuff around you, it's a struggle. The clear thing going forward is this is the Lions saying, we want to find our franchise quarterback, Jared Goff. You are not it. And so we are not going to continue to hold on to weapons for you that are going to cost us immense amount of money if we don't think you're the guy. So we would rather get draft picks and accrue picks in case we have to trade up to get our guy than keep you. This is the year the Lions can get out of his contract at a reasonably reasonable rate, I guess is the best way to say it. They can get out of that contract. And so when we look at this, it just honestly becomes very obvious to me that the writing is on the wall that Jared Goff is not the franchise and the future. Now, I think we all kind of knew that, But honestly, I'm happy to see the change because here's what I've seen. I've seen enough of Goff to know that he can be a good quarterback. He in spurts can do things well. But I've also seen enough of Jared Goff to know that if that pocket breaks down, play's over. If he has a couple of injured targets, it's over. And so if you have a quarterback that can't improvise, and Jared Goff, every once in a while, he'll amaze you and do some improvisation, but it's not like it's really good improvisation. It's just really good for Jared Goff. That's not going to win in the NFL. The Lions have spent a lot of money on this offense, and they're going to continue to spend money on this offense because they have 40 plus 50 million. They're going to have a minimum of 50. They already have 50. They're going to have probably 60 million in their offensive line. So, like, this is a team that's going to spend a lot of money on the offense. So, they need to stop spending a lot of money on the quarterback so they can put that money and they can spread out that $30 million or 20, let's say, is what it ends up being when you draft a quarterback really high. They can spread that out on the defense, they can spread that out on weapons. And most teams' success in the NFL comes in a 5-year span. And that 5-year span is your rookie year to year 5 before the contract just blows up. We saw it in Seattle with Russell Wilson. We saw it in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. Like, we see teams have success with young quarterbacks. We even see it in Buffalo with Josh Allen. Okay, so we see teams win it. We saw it in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, and then when he started getting paid a truckload, they still have a good team every year. I just talked about this with Clint. They still have a good team every year, but it's not a Super Bowl winning team. So the Detroit Lions know they're building this roster. They're in the talent acquisition phase. They're going to have a ton of young talent. You talk about Penei Sewell on the offensive line, TJ Hockenson, Josh Paschal, Amon-Ra St. Brown has turned out to be a very good player. They're hoping for Jameson Williams to be a playmaker. You add another first-round pick and 2 more second-round picks, which is what we have next year. All of a sudden, in a year or two, there's a lot of talent on this team. And if you can have a young quarterback surrounded by that much talent, all of a sudden you have a recipe for success. You have a recipe for success because you can spend money on the offense, you can spend money on the defense, and you're not giving a quarterback $40 million, which is what a good quarterback, $50 million, costs these days. So that is what I believe. It is clear. There can also be an argument that I hesitate to say this. Should I say this? I'm going to say this. There could be an argument made that this was a little bit of a job security ploy. Like, all right, we're going to trade this away. Brad Holmes comes out and says we're still in the rebuilding phase, and he's sending a message to the ownership that, like, we're not there yet. Remember, and this was never a 2-year plan. This was always a 3 or 4-year plan. And he is reminding them that this is still a 3 or 4-year plan. So there could be a little bit of job security going on there for Holmes, maybe Campbell. I think the Campbell job security might be the firing of Pleasant. Holmes is the trading of Hockenson. So I still don't fully understand the Pleasant firing. In fact, I don't understand it. Like, I understand that the defense in the secondary has been hot garbage, but I don't know if I blame Pleasant for that. Aaron Glenn said we lost a good football coach when Pleasant was fired. If he was such a good football coach, why did the secondary get destroyed and decimated? He's putting himself in a box. Aaron Glenn is putting himself in a box with that. So I just kind of struggle understanding that one. And there is some hesitation that I have now. Dan Campbell, we're not even a year and a half into Dan Campbell's tenure. He's already fired his offensive coordinator for good reason. And he has now fired his DB coach. That's interesting to me. I am very, very interested to see if the new DB coach will have a big impact like Ben Johnson did on the offense. And because I think his play calls are phenomenal on the offensive end. I think when you, through 4 weeks, have the number 1 offense in the NFL and your quarterback is Jared Goff, you deserve a gold star for coaching. That's all I'm going to say. So we're going to talk more about this as the season continues. These are the kind of conversations we're going to have. But I think the Lions' path is clear. And I think a lot of fans can almost breathe a sigh of relief that, okay, we're not going to keep trying to win heavily this year. I'm not saying we're trying to lose. Don't do that. We're still going to try and win. It's just, is the talent going to be there? And so we hopefully will get ourselves a top 3 pick, which will allow us to get a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, a Will Levis. You choose your favorite, a hooker from Tennessee. All right. That sounded weird when it came out of my mouth. So you choose your favorite quarterback, but I know who mine is, and I'm sure we'll start talking about him in the near future. So, hey, rest assured, a new quarterback's coming into town. The last time we had a number 1 pick on a quarterback, it turned into Matt Stafford. That wasn't bad, but I think the roster is remarkably better than it was when Stafford took over year 1. Considering we're coming off 0-16, I think I was right. All right, we'll see you on the next one, y'all. Hit that subscribe button and go Lions.